The sovereign bird of the Hermetic stream, an exhaustive analysis of pelican symbolism in Freemasonry, alchemy, and the ancient mysteries, executive abstract. The symbol of the pelican in her piety, a mother bird piercing her own breast to feed her young with her blood, constitutes one of the most dense, multivalent, and enduring icons in the Western esoteric tradition. While its exoteric face is familiar to Christian iconography as a representation of the Passion and the Eucharist, its esoteric anatomy reveals a complex lineage that predates Christianity, rooting itself in the solar funerary theology of ancient Egypt, passing through the alembics of medieval alchemy, and finding its architectural apotheosis in the high degrees of Freemasonry. This report, designed for the advanced student of symbology and esoteric history, provides an exhaustive examination of the pelican's function as a hieroglyph of transformation. We demonstrate that the pelican is not merely a static emblem of sacrifice, but a dynamic operator in the mysteries of regeneration. In the Egyptian pyramid texts, the goddess Henet functions as a psychopomp and a mechanism of safe passage through the netherworld, her open beak symbolizing the tomb shaft and the portal to the solar bark. In the alchemical laboratories of the Renaissance, the pelican becomes both a specific circulatory vessel and a precise stage of the magnum opus, the Sebacean, where the philosopher's stone is nourished by its own essence to achieve the red stage. In the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, particularly the 18th degree, the pelican represents the synthesis of the old law of severity and the new law of love, serving as a totem of universal philanthropy and the equilibrium of a rigorous analysis of primary sources, from the Physiologus and the Ripley Scroll to the Franken manuscript and Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. This report reconstructs the golden chain of the pelican symbol. It argues that the bird serves as a continuous, trans-historical signifier for the volatilization of the fixed and the fixation of the volatile, the central mystery of the Hermetic art. Part 1. The ornithological substrate, biology, error, and the construction of myth. To comprehend the symbolic edifice constructed upon the pelican, one must first excavate the biological reality and the specific observational errors that allowed the myth of the Vulning to take root. The esoteric power of the symbol lies precisely in the tension between the bird's natural behaviors and the theological narratives imposed upon them. 1. The biological reality and the canopus of the Nile. The pelican is a large water bird, ancient in its evolutionary history, with fossil evidence dating back 30 million years. 1. Biologically, it is characterized by its massive throat pouch, used as a dip net for catching prey, and its communal breeding habits. The specific species most relevant to the myth's origin is the Dalmatian pelican, or the great white pelican, both native to the regions where the myth germinated, Egypt and the Mediterranean basin. The myth of self-sacrifice, that the mother pierces her breast to feed her young with blood, arises from three primary biological misinterpretations. The feeding mechanism. Pelicans feed their young by regurgitating macerated fish from their pouch. To empty the pouch, the parent presses its bill firmly against its own chest. An observer at a distance, seeing the bird thrashing its head against its breast and the chicks reaching into the pouch, could easily mistake the regurgitated food for blood drawn from the parent's flesh. The resting posture. The pelican has a heavy beak. When at rest, it often tucks the bill into the feathers of the breast to support the weight. This posture, combined with the red patch that appears on the chest of some species during mating season, visually suggests a wound, avian aggression. As noted in ancient natural histories, pelican chicks can be aggressive. As they mature, they may strike at the parent's face to demand food. The parent's violent reaction, sometimes killing the chick inadvertently or in defense, provided the raw material for the narrative of rebellion and retribution that became central to the Physiologus legend. For Isidore of Seville, writing in his etymologies, records the bird's name as originating from the Egyptian canopus, linking it to the Nile Delta. 6. This geographical anchor is crucial as it connects the medieval Christian myth back to the Egyptian goddess Henet, establishing a continuous regional tradition of the bird as a sacred actor. 1.2. The Physiologus and the theological overlay. The transmutation of the pelican from a biological curiosity to a theological imperative via the Physiologus, a Greek text compiled in Alexandria around the 2nd century AD. 7. This text did not aim for scientific accuracy, but for moralized zoology. Reading the Book of Nature as a parallel revelation to the Physiologus codifies the myth into a 4-act drama of salvation. Act the Rebellion. The little pelicans strike their parents in the face. This is explicitly linked to Isaiah 1:2. I have brought up children and exalted them, but they have despised me. 5. The chicks represent humanity in its state of original sin or rebellion against the Creator. Act 2. The Retribution. The parents striking back, kill them. This represents the fall of man and the condemnation under the old law, death as the wages of sin. 7. Act 3. The Silence. The mother mourns the dead chicks for 3 days. This interregnum mirrors the 3 days Christ spent in the tomb, a period of sorrow and suspension. 6. Act 4. The Resurrection. On the 3rd day, the mother strikes her side, spilling her blood over the dead bodies. The blood itself awakens them from death. 7. This is the Eucharistic climax. The blood of Christ reviving the dead soul of narrative structure was potent because it integrated the cruelty of nature with the grace of the divine. Unlike the eagle, which represented sovereignty and the ascension of the spirit, the pelican represented the descension of the spirit into matter to redeem it through suffering. 3. The medieval bestiaries and the vulning. Heraldry. By the 12th century, the Physiologus material had been absorbed into the Latin bestiaries, becoming a staple of medieval education and art. The visual language of the pelican became standardized in 2 forms: the pelican in her piety, the bird standing in its nest, wings addorsed or inverted, feeding her young. This became a symbol of the church feeding the faithful, the pelican vulning, the bird alone, wounding her breast. This focused specifically on the act of sacrifice itself, independent of the reception by the young. 2. In heraldry, the pelican became a signifier of the highest charity. Bishop Richard Fox, founder of Corpus Christi College, Oxford, adopted the pelican as his personal emblem, cementing the connection between the bird and the body of Christ. 10. The symbol appeared on decorative plates, tabernacles, and roof bosses, functioning as a ubiquitous reminder that life requires the expenditure of life. 91.4. Literary manifestations, Dante and Shakespeare. The permeation of the pelican myth into the literary canon demonstrates its role as a cultural shorthand for sacrificial love. Dante Alighieri. In the Divine Comedy, Dante refers to Christ as Nostro Pelicano. He describes the Apostle John as the one who lay upon the bosom of our pelican, referring to the Last Supper where John leaned against Jesus. Here the pelican is the source of divine intimacy and the secrets of heaven. William Shakespeare. Shakespeare utilizes the pelican's darker side, the rebellion of the young. In King Lear, Lear refers to his greedy daughters as pelican daughters, implying they are draining his blood for their own sustenance. 12. In Hamlet, Laertes vows to open his arms, like the kind life-rendering pelican, to feed his friends with his blood. 13. Shakespeare captures the dual nature of the symbol. It is an image of generosity from the parent's perspective, but potentially parasitism from the child's perspective, a nuance that resonates in the Masonic interpretation of the needy feeding on the philanthropist. Part 2. The Nilotic origin, Henet, and the solar funerary complex. While the Christian tradition focuses on the blood, the ancient Egyptian tradition, which forms the distant ancestry of Hermetic Freemasonry, focuses on the beak and the passage. The pelican was not merely a bird of the river, it was a participant in the celestial mechanics of the afterlife. Part 2.1. The goddess Henet in the pyramid texts. The pelican in ancient Egypt was identified with the goddess Henet. Unlike major deities like Isis or Hathor, Henet operated in the specialized geography of the funerary texts, particularly the pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom. In utterance 318 of the pyramid texts, the king's relationship to the divine is framed through the pelican. The pelican is the king's mother, and the king is her son. Fifth title, Mother of the King, was a theologically charged designation, usually reserved for the highest goddesses like Mut or Hathor. By assigning this to Henet, the texts elevate the pelican to a status of royal progenitor. This motherhood is not merely biological but ontological. The king is of the nature of the pelican. Point 2. The open mouth, prophecy and the tomb shaft. The most esoteric function of the Egyptian pelican lies in the symbolism of its open mouth. The long, cavernous beak and the throat pouch were seen as analogous to the tomb shaft, the dark, narrow passage leading from the burial chamber up to the daylight. In the coffin texts and the Book of the Dead, the deceased invokes the pelican to ensure their exit from the tomb. The mouth of the pelican is opened for you. The mouth of the pelican is thrown open for you. The pelican has caused you to go out into the day to the place where you wish to be. 15 here, the pelican is the gatekeeper of resurrection. The opening of the mouth is not just a reference to the famous ritual performed on the mummy to restore the senses. It is a reference to the physical opening of the earth to release the soul. The pelican prophesies the going forth. Its cry was likely interpreted as an oracle of safe passage, 152.3. The solar bark and the navigation of the duat. The pelican's ability to navigate the three elements, water, earth, and air, made it a perfect symbol for the solar bark as it traversed the dangerous geography of the duat. The texts refer to the pelican falling into the Nile to scoop up hostile elements. 14. This describes a protective function. Just as the pelican scoops fish, the goddess Henet scoops up the enemies of the sun god Ra in her pouch, neutralizing the chaos that threatens the solar meb. Utterance 254. The text states, "A holy person falls into the Nile as a pelican. Flee! Flee! Brute, lie down!" Point 22. This suggests a transformative magic where the deceased assumes the form of the pelican to terrify the demons of the river. The pelican is thus a warrior mother, a protector of the nest tomb, ensuring that the solar cycle continues uninterrupted. This protective, militant aspect reappears in the Masonic Knight degrees, where the pelican is guarded by the sword. Part 3. The Hermetic Pelican, Alchemy, the Vessel, and the Great Work. As the Egyptian mysteries filtered through Hellenistic Egypt and into the Islamic Golden Age and medieval Europe, the pelican was adopted by the alchemists. Here, the bird sheds its strictly theological feathers and acquires a technical, operational plumage. In alchemy, the pelican is both a tool and a stage of matter. Paul 3.1. The Pelicanus vessel, mechanics of circulation. In the operative laboratory, the pelican referred to a specific design of the distillation vessel, or alembic. 23. The vessel was shaped like an amphora or a gourd, but with a crucial modification. 2 glass tubes emerged from the head of the vessel and curved downward, re-entering the belly of the anatomy. The belly contained the prima materia. As heat was applied, the volatile spirit would rise as vapor into the head. Instead of escaping into a receiver, the vapor would condense and flow back down the curved tubes into the belly. 24. The physiology. This created a closed loop of circulatory distillation, or cohobation. The matter was continually bathed in its own distilled symbolism. The visual similarity to the bird was striking. The vessel appeared to be pecking its own breast to feed the matter inside. Symbolically, this represented the autotrophic nature of the stone. The philosopher's stone is self-sufficient. It contains everything it needs for its own perfection. It is water and no water, stone and no stone, fed by its own blood. 263.2. Cibation, the feeding of the stone. In the sequence of the magnum opus, the pelican corresponds to a specific operation known as cibation. This stage occurs after the albedo and before the final rubedo. 27. Once the matter has been purified into the white stone, it is considered an infant, pure but weak. It must be fed to grow in strength and diet. The food is the milk and meat of the stone, often interpreted as the mercury of the philosophers and the red sulfur. Point 29. The mechanism. Just as the mother pelican wounds herself to revive her dead chicks, the alchemist must apply the blood to the white stone. This blood is often the volatile spirit that has been fixed, and result, this feeding causes the stone to shift color from white to red. The red stone is the pelican in her piety. It has the power to tinge or transmute base metals, just as the mother's blood transmits life. 303.3. The Ripley Scroll, a visual exegesis. The Ripley Scroll, a masterwork of 15th century alchemical imagery attributed to Sir George Ripley, provides the most elaborate visual treatise on the pelican's role. 32. Hermes and the Flask. The scroll opens with a large figure of Hermes Trismegistus holding a pelican flask. The flask is often depicted in a cutaway view, revealing the drama inside. 34. The internal drama. Inside the flask, we see a toad and a dragon. The toad represents the heavy, fixed earth. The dragon represents the volatile spirit. In some versions, the dragon is shown bleeding or biting itself. 32. This vulning dragon is the esoteric equivalent of the pelican. The volatile spirit must be wounded so that its blood can wash and redeem the toad. The colour sequence. The scroll depicts the bird changing colours, from the black crow to the white swan to the red pelican. The text of the scroll explicitly links this to the heating of the furnace. And then as soon as it does feel the fire, like wax it will be ready unto liquation. The compound of the whole is called our lead, the red gum that is so bright. 293.4 Paracelsian and Rosicrucian alchemy. For Paracelsus and the 17th century Rosicrucians, the pelican became a symbol of the universal medicine. In the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz, the third Rosicrucian manifesto, the pelican plays a central role in the allegorical work, performed in the Tower of Olympus. 38. In the allegory, the bodies of the king and queen are decapitated and distilled. The fluid or blood is collected and used to revive a small bird, which transforms successively. The pelican represents the stage where the bird becomes strong enough to feed others. It is the transition from becoming to being. It is the Red King resurrected, ready to rule. The Confessio Fraternitatis and Fama Fraternitatis do not explicitly dwell on the pelican image, but the spirit of the pelican is the rose on the cross, the lifeblood of the order sacrificed for the universal reformation of the whole wide world. 26. Part 4. The Masonic Apotheosis, the Night Rose Croix. In the 18th century, the symbols of operative alchemy and the Rosicrucian Enlightenment were grafted onto the stem of Freemasonry. The result was the Hotz Grades, culminating in the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. The pelican found its eternal home in the 18th degree. Night Rose Croix. Point 1. Historical development. From Franken to Pike, the 18th degree did not spring fully formed. It evolved from the Order of the Royal Secret brought to the West Indies by Stephen Morin and codified in the Franken manuscript. 41. The Franken era, in the early rituals, the degree was explicitly Christian. The lost word found was often Inri, interpreted as Isus Nazarenus Rex Iudeorum. The pelican was a direct emblem of Christ the Redeemer. 43. The Pike Reformation. In the mid-19th century, Albert Pike, Grand Commander of the Southern Jurisdiction, revised the rituals to strip them of sectarian dogma. In Morals and Dogma, Pike reinterprets Inri as Igne Natura Renovatur Integra, an alchemical maxim. 44. He reframes the pelican not just as Jesus, but as a universal avatar of nature and philanthropy. 4.2. The ritual drama from the old law to the new. The ritual of the 18th degree is a drama of chamber of darkness. The candidate enters a room draped in black, symbolizing the world under the old law. The temple is destroyed. The tools are broken. The word is lost. This corresponds to the alchemical Negredo. 45. The journey. The candidate travels through the valley of the shadow of death. The chamber of light. The scene shifts to a brilliant red room. The new law is revealed. This law is love. The symbol of this new law is the pelican. 4.3. Symbolic anatomy. The jewel and the apron. The visible badges of the degree encapsulate its dualistic jewel. A compass open to 60 degrees on a quadrant. Obverse, an eagle with wings extended. 46. The eagle represents the ascent, the intellect, the sun, and the rigor of justice. Reverse, a pelican piercing its breast to feed its 7 young. Port 1. The pelican represents the descent, the emotion, the earth-water, and the mercy of synthesis. The eagle and pelican are not opposites but complements. The eagle is the wisdom to know the truth. The pelican is the love to sacrifice for it. As Pike writes, the pelican and eagle together are symbols of perfect wisdom and perfect devotedness. 46. The apron, typically white satin lined with black, featuring the pelican on the flap and the Passion Cross on the body. 464.4 Pike's Universalist reinterpretation. Pike's exegesis in Morals and Dogma is crucial for the modern occult understanding. He explicitly connects the Masonic pelican to the alchemical tradition. The pelican represents one of the vessels in which the experiments of alchemy are performed, and its blood that mysterious tincture by which the base metals are transmuted into spiritual gold. 31, he identifies the 7 young, not just as the 7 virtues or 7 sacraments, but as the 7 planets or 7 metals of the Hermetic system. The blood is the spiritual force that must be poured out by the adept to transmute the base nature of humanity. 14.5, the mystic supper and the funeral. The degree includes a mystic supper involving bread and wine. While mimicking the Eucharist, in the Pelican rite, it becomes a feast of fraternal love. The Pelican presides over this feast as the totem of the shared substance of the funeral service of a night rose craw. The Pelican symbolizes the continuity of life. The blood of the deceased brother continues to feed the lodge. It is a defiance of death through the legacy of love. 47, Part 5. The esoteric continuation, Golden Dawn, Thelema, and beyond. The 19th century occult revival, spearheaded by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, synthesized the Masonic and Rosicrucian streams, giving the Pelican new life in ceremonial magic. 5.1. The Golden Dawn and the Tifereth consciousness. In the Golden Dawn system, the Pelican is associated with the Second Order, which corresponds to the Sephira Tifereth on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. 48. The Lamen, the Rose Cross Lamen, worn by the Adeptus Minor, features the Pelican at the foot of the cross, or often associated with the red rose formula of the Rosy Cross. The Pelican represents the formula of the sacrificed God. The adept must attain the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, and then return to the world to pour out that light for humanity. Point 5.2, Thelema, the blood of the adept and the Knight of Pan Aleister Crowley, who advanced through the Golden Dawn and the Scottish Rite, incorporated Pelican imagery into Knight of Pan. In Crowley's cosmology, the Pelican's self-wounding is an allegory for the crossing of the abyss. The adept must pour out every drop of their blood into the cup of Babylon to be reborn as a master of the temple. 49, Liber 65, I am the heart, and the snake is entwined about the invisible core of the mind. Rise, O my snake, it is the hour of the hooded and holy flower. The imagery of the bird feeding the young is often inverted or sexualized in Thelemic alchemy to represent the elixir of life, created through the mass of the phoenix. 49530TO and the sovereign sanctuary. In the Ordo Templi Orientis, the 18th degree is often retained or mirrored in the Knight of the Pelican and Eagle. The OTO interprets the symbols through a sexual alchemical lens, where the blood of the pelican and the gluten of the eagle are the 2 components of the supreme secret of the 9th degree, the generative fluids used in Eucharistic magic. 52, Part 6, Synthesis and Final Analysis. The trajectory of the pelican symbol reveals a consistent hermeneutic of depth. In every tradition, Egyptian, Christian, alchemical, Masonic, the pelican functions as a mediator between 2 states, life and death, from Henet guiding the soul through the tomb to the physiologous mother reviving the dead chicks, volatile and fixed, from the alchemical vessel circulating vapor back into liquid to the Rosicrucian marriage of the white eagle and red and other, from the biological feeding of the young to the Masonic philanthropy of the night rose. Secret of the pelican is not merely that it gives its blood. The secret is that it does not die in the process. The alchemical pelican circulates. The blood returns. The Masonic pelican represents inexhaustible munificence. It is a fountain that fills itself by emptying the final analysis. The pelican in her piety is the supreme hieroglyph of creative sustenance. It teaches the initiate that true power is sterile unless it is grounded in the willingness to wound the self to feed the future. It is the transmutation of the ego into the ecosystem of the spirit. Table 1, Comparative Anatomy of the Pelican Symbol, Tradition, Deity, Figure, Key Text, Source, Ritual Function, Symbolic Polarity, Ancient Egypt, Henet, Pyramid Text, Psychopomp, Opening the Tomb, The Portal versus Closed Earth, Early Christian Christ, Physiologous Atonement, Resurrection, Grace versus Rebellion. Medieval Alchemy, Lapis Philosophorum, Ripley Scroll, Compound of Alchemy, Sibitian, Red Tincture, Viz. Whitestone, Freemasonry, Night Rose, Cra Frank and Miz. Morals and Dogma, Transition to the New Law, Love, Mercy versus Rigor, Justice, Thelema, Babe of the Abyss, Liber 65, Book of Lies, Destruction of Ego, Knight of Pan, The Cup versus the Blood, Table 2, The Alchemical Color Scale and the Pelican Stage Color Bird Symbol, Operation Meaning, Nigredo, Black Crow, Raven, Putrefaction, Death of the Base Metal, Ego, Albedo, Swan's White Eagle, Distillation, Purification. Separation of the subtle, sebation turning red, pelican circulation feeding the white stone with red perfection, resurrection, immortality. End of report.